Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Greco, and I'm one of the regional sales managers here at Foundation Software. And I'd like to welcome everybody today to Foundation's free webinar series. Today, we're going to talk about how we can utilize Foundation software to master cost estimating. Before we actually jump into the presentation, I do like to let everybody know that currently everybody's in mute-only mode. So if there are any questions throughout the presentation, we can enter those into the GoToMeeting player. I'll make sure I carve out some time at the end of the presentation to go through answering any questions that you have. Now, for those that don't know who Foundation Software is, we are a job cost accounting solution that is designed to replace your current solution as far as accounting, job costing, potentially project management. We do have some mobile timekeeping solutions for various areas of the business, as well as a payroll service, estimating. You can say we do a little bit of everything. And our primary market is solely going to be construction. So that's been our roots from 1985 to today. So the system was originally designed for construction accounting. It is something that is the only market that we're in. So everything that you see within the system is very construction specific. And today's presentation kind of interlines with the common things that we see with those that are using possibly an off-the-shelf system that doesn't really get into how we're able to track costs in a lot more detail. One thing that we're going to focus a lot today on is the ability for the system to track very detailed job costing and compare that to estimates, right? What we see typically, there's a lot of manual entry that occurs from off-the-shelf systems or maybe even other systems that don't really allow those that need to see that information to make calculated decisions, to be able to see where they stand on each job real time, and be able to examine where their costs are, right? I'm a firm believer, having done this for well over 17 years, that being able to see what jobs really cost are important, and we want to provide a solution from an accounting perspective that's going to allow you to be way more competitive in your estimating, way more competitive in your bidding. And the only way to really do that is to be able to see what jobs cost all the way down to labor, materials, burden, all the above. So hopefully today, by going through the system, I want to give you guys some ideas on how well Foundation tracks job costing and how we can use those cost numbers to then better estimate future projects. So with the system itself, it is a full-blown accounting solution. What you see on the screen here is kind of where we're going to start. We want to be able to provide you with tools out of the box that allow you to get to those details. So each rollout of Foundation would come with this standard executive dashboard. And it's a really quick and easy way for me to show you kind of the first level of what I consider, tracking costs and especially tracking estimate versus actual costs. So within the system itself, we call Foundation a one point of entry accounting solution, meaning we want to be able to capture information, whether that be labor, whether that be an AP invoice, whether that be an AIA billing, but we only want to enter that information once. So efficiency is going to be kind of one of our primary focuses with the solution. And with that, on the accounting side, we should then be able to turn around and see our job cost reports as real time as data is going into the system. A good example, just not getting into the details just yet, but how can I just go into the software and see where every project is at? So we have this dashboard that comes with the system, and I just simply clicked within that graph, and I'm able to drill into all active projects. From this report here, this isn't where we start to get into the details yet. This would give us a 30,000-foot view of where each project is. One nice thing about Foundation, as opposed to other off-the-shelf solutions, is, as estimates, we have original estimates, we have change orders that flow through the course of the job, we have cost that comes in. How can we track all that in one place? And that's going to be where Foundation comes into play. So we're able to see, where our jobs are at, up to date, meaning, any revisions to our contract, any revisions to our budget, where we think the job's going to land as far as profit-wise, and then compare that to what's really going on as far as the actual billings, actual costs, and actual margins. So if we go back to how we set projects up, how we input our estimates. And with estimates, those can be either entered in manually, those can be used from a third-party estimating solution, where we work with a lot of the different construction-specific estimating solutions. We're able to import that data directly into here by project, by cost code, which we'll get to. But just kind of on the surface here, we should be able to see where every job is at real time. And if I want to drill into a specific project, that's where I can start drilling into those estimates. So with this project in particular, we know that we have around $242,000 worth of cost. So how can we better compare or get a little bit more information on where that cost lies? From here, I'm able to drill into that cost estimate. And this is where the estimating and the accounting comes together. I'm able to drill into this project, and then when I inputted this job, whether I'm using a third-party estimating solution or I'm hand keying these in, I want to be able to track my estimates versus actual. That's going to give me that ability to know, okay, did I really screw up on this estimate, or am I under budget, or am I over budget? Where am I at? And that's going to be key with foundation. This is where we start to see, where we're at on each project and each line item on that project. We can even take it a step further. So if I take a specific cost code and I want to drill into it, this whole estimated cost is going to come from either Excel, it's going to come from a third-party estimating, it's going to come from my entry. But this is kind of where we envision the job costing when we initially bid the job. This also has any bearings on change orders. So this number can always change, based on original budget plus or minus any change orders. The actual cost is going to come from foundation. So when we enter time into the system, when we enter bills into the software, when we issue subcontracts, when we have equipment costs, all that lives in the system. So this allows me to actually track a lot more real time than me having to do it back and forth in Excel or other various reports done outside my accounting software, where, as you guys know, that stuff takes time, it leaves room for error, and it just never gets entered into the spreadsheet on time. Where in foundation, we want to be a lot more proactive than reactive. So this allows me to drill into jobs, drill into line items on that job, and see exactly where every line item of cost is. Now I can compare budget versus actual. I can see what's left out there as far as a variance or remaining cost. Allows me to track estimated hours versus actual hours. And then if I ever want to see what's behind the curtain, or see what, how we use 377 hours, or why am I over budget on certain categories, I can then drill into each line item as well. So let's take labor, for example. I'm able to drill directly into labor and see all the actual time that lives in foundation. So this is also where you kind of start to see the accounting side come together with the job cost side. I can do the same with any type of cost. If I'm wanting to drill into materials, I can then drill into all the AP invoices that were entered into the software. I can even take it a step further and drill into a copy of that invoice. So this is going to give me a lot more granularity, a lot more detail of being able to see where my costs really lie. And this is also going to be something that I can use for the future if I want to compare similar jobs, or if I want some historical values. I'll touch on some other reports as well that are going to give me some real-time costing, not so much us guessing at what our jobs are going to cost. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the dashboard here. And let's touch on some other tools. So foundation software, I would consider it being a very great fit for what we consider the labor-intensive contractor. And I get asked a lot, from my years of doing demonstrations, implementations, how can I know what my job's labor really runs? It's always going to be kind of one of the major pieces of cost analysis. Within foundation, we were just drilling into cost to see, where those jobs are, estimate versus actual, but how can we better serve ourselves of what our labor really cost us? So when we allocate labor in foundation, it's just not labor hours and labor dollars. A lot of systems kind of stop right there. Within foundation, our job is to track every dollar of cost, whether it be labor, whether it be burden, whether it be union fringes, workers' comp, employer FICA, and that's going to give us that true loaded labor number. We have a nice report here that provides you with all that information. We call it the burden job summary report, where we're able to run this report for whatever type of time frame we want to. It's going to look back at the payroll. It's going to pull in all the payroll broken down by job. It's going to show you your job hours and your job dollars, but it's also going to break out every piece of employer burden to the penny. So a lot of systems struggle to kind of give that to you in that level of detail, or they just don't give it to you at all. And the burden allocation is kind of more what I consider an overhead allocation, not so much to the actual penny. This is going to give me an opportunity to examine each project. And let's take Lake County Trust, for example. I know if I've estimated that job at, let's say, $45 an hour, I'm probably going to be under budget there. But if I've used that same number on Lakewood Recreation, just by looking at the actual costs, that's going to probably tell me that I may go over budget on this job if the trends continue. So we want to give you the ability to track your true labor costs with burden included by job to then be able to compare what we've truly estimated. And that's going to give us an idea of if we're really tracking our budgets the way we should be, and we're really estimating with a true number more so than a number that is historical or something that we've plucked out of the sky. If we look at the overall report, if we ran this for an entire year, we would know our labor costs fall around this amount, and that's going to tell us what our true labor numbers are. And if we choose to, we can apply that to future estimates that we have better clarity of where our payroll really lies. So it's a great report, giving us that ability. If we wanted to open this up even and be able to see what each employee is costing us by job. So let's say, we're using journeyman, foreman, apprentices. We can see by job how much each employee is really costing us to the penny. So I always couple labor with production. Being able to have that look at labor and see exactly, where our labor costs are, what's our loaded labor number, important, and that stuff lives in the system as well. But we can also track productivity. So if we have the need to not only track labor, but we also maybe want to track quantities completed. There's another excellent report in the system that would give us that ability to look at production. So as we look at a job, whether it's going to be a job that's ongoing, or we want to look at a job from a previous past, whether it be last year, last month, all that data lives in Foundation. So I can run this currently for a current project at any given point in time, or I can run this for historical projects. And this is going to give me some more ability to track not only the labor dollars and the labor hours, but for anybody on today's presentation that also tracks production. How can we better track what we think the job's going to produce versus where it is right now? It gives us an ability to track quantities, estimated quantities, completed quantities to date, and we can enter those either from a foreman report, or we even have mobile solutions in the field that would allow an employee or a foreman to enter in their completed quantities for the day, which then gets imported into the system, and then we can turn around and take a look at whether we're in line with our estimated production, we're ahead of the game, we're falling behind. Where do we need to be in order to make up that production rate? That's all information that we can track in the software that is instantaneous. There's also going to be some other really nice reports in the system that are more focused, once again, towards labor. If we're looking to exclude materials, if we're looking to just come in here and take a look at, estimated labor versus actual labor, let's just look at what we thought the job was going to land versus where we are now. There are some very unique reports in the system that are more labor driven. So I can see, once again, budget versus actual, but I can exclude all the other information and just focus on my labor. Once again, this is going to give me the ability to compare estimated costs versus actual costs. I can compare them from a time frame, so the system is date sensitive, where I could run this for a specific month and compare that to a current period versus a to-date period. And then I'm always able to see the variance of what I have left out there. And if I need to, I can then get some additional information on here. Now, those are just some sample reports that live in the system that if we use these reports throughout the course of the job, or even historically, that's going to give us a better feel for, or a better idea of where our cost estimates lie versus where our actual costs are. And that's really important, whether we're looking back a year or we're looking back to a current period. Knowing where you're at every day or every other day, that could be very easily achieved in the system just by logging in the foundation and doing your accounting out of our software. Now, I also like to touch on the system's ability to create custom reports. So I've given you some examples that are very popular in our software that allow you to take a look at cost estimates and compare them to where you stand. But we're not a software that, hey, this is all we provide. There's no variations, there's no customability. We want to be the opposite. And we don't want to leverage third-party tools that are very hard for our customers to understand. So we did a good job of creating our own report designer. So instead of forcing you to use a third party outside of the software platform, we have our own pretty much built into the system. And one of the nice things about our report designer is that it's easier for the customer to create their own reports. It's not something that you have to pay us every time you want a custom report. The fields make sense, right? So everybody knows what a job number is. Everybody knows what a job name is. But then I can get into all these specific cost fields. If I want to run a report for estimated labor costs and compare that to date labor costs, and maybe I want to throw in some estimated labor hours. I'm just kind of picking random stuff here and compare it to date labor hours. I could add these fields to the specific report that I want them in the specific order that I choose. I could do calculations. I could put quantities in here. I can put income. So think about all the different various types of reports that you might run or want to run. If they're not living in the system, chances are job costing, we can create them with you. And this is something that we do cover through our standard implementations. And obviously we do our own customer support here. So if you have a question, it's something that we can answer for you. But I can build my reports to look however I want. And now those are named reports in the system. I can call them whenever I want. I can run them whenever I want. So sky's the limit really when it comes to how we want to compare our estimated costs versus actual costs in any report in the system. The last area I'd like to jump into is projections. So we've spent a lot of time on actual cost. We spent a lot of time on estimated cost. What about projected cost? How can I use a construction specific accounting solution to maybe compare all three numbers? That is something that comes within just our core system and foundation. So all these modules up top here are just one single package. And obviously we have additional modules that you see on the screen here. But projections is a very, asked about area anytime I'm doing demonstrations. And we need an ability that if we need to do projections, we can do them in the accounting system. So that's something we can enter into the software, which then gives us another level of estimate, actual, and projections. Now, projections can be entered in various ways. It could be something that, I want a single line item for, or if I want to project cost all the way down to the category, I could do so. That's going to be able to compare estimated cost. We even have the ability to enter in subcontracts. So take that second number, which is committed cost. We obviously can track cost to date through the accounting side. And then now we actually get a fourth number, which is projected. I can either come in and enter in a percent complete. So let's say it's 100% complete. You'll see that number change. Or if I don't want to do a percentage of completion, I want to come in and enter in a value. I can enter in a value, and obviously this is incorrect, but this gives me the ability to not only project by percentage, but also by hard dollar. So I wanted to touch on the four major areas within the system. The dashboard being an excellent tool that we can go into and really dig into those estimate versus actual reports. We get down all the way into the detail, see where every dollar is going, compare that to my budget, whether I come into the system once a day, every other day. We also want to talk about our labor costs, which was the burden job summary report that allows us to track every penny of labor, whether it be labor hours, labor dollars, employer comp, employer FICA, union fringes. We allocate 1 hour of labor in foundation. All of that information gets allocated behind the scenes real time. And then talking about production and also the ability to create custom reports. So I wanted to touch on those major areas, talk about how foundation handles those costing areas. And now I want to open up the floor to anybody that has any questions. So once again, pretty much everybody's in mute only mode. So within your GoToMeeting player area, you should be able to key in those questions and I can answer any questions that you have. First question is, how do we integrate third-party estimating in foundation? So a couple different ways. The main area I'll discuss would be the import genies. So over the years, we've always been a software that what I like to say, play well with others. So whether you're using something like Conest or FastPipe, something that I feel that estimating is going to be very industry specific. If you're using something like that and we want to bring those cost estimates into the system, we have a nice tool that allows us to go into the software and actually build and import with whichever estimating solution you choose or you're using. That then builds a bridge between foundation and, let's say, FastPipe or let's say Conest. That gives us the ability now to export from those various estimating solutions and import those cost estimates directly into the software. Brings in the line items, it brings in the estimated labor, the estimated hours, and then that's a true budget that lives in the system that then we can track throughout the course of the job. That would be something that we covered during the implementation as well. Is there a setup for general liability insurance for accruals? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so when we actually set the system up, it's important that we do that hands-on with every single one of our customers and getting all the way down to whether we're setting up comp, setting up general liability, setting up unions. All that information can be set up directly in the payroll, which then we can expense what we need to expense to the job and accrue where we need to accrue it to. That is something that we cover with every single one of our customers when we initially roll out the system. With payroll setup, is it set up by job or as a whole? Well, I would think it's parts, right? So depending on the type of contractor you are, we're always going to be setting up payroll as a whole, meaning we want to set up the specific trades for your organization, the workers' compensation policies you have, the general liability policies, all the various unions you have. We walk through all that setup. But depending on the type of contractor that you're working with, it depends on if they do certified payroll, if they do multi-union payroll, if they do, let's say, workers' comp by job or general liability by job. So it can be both, depending on the needs of that company. We would then walk you through, okay, we first ask a lot of questions up front so that we can get a good feel for how you do payroll. And then we walk you through placing that information in the correct areas. So it can be set up by job or as a whole. Is each payroll set up as its own profile? Each company is set up as its own company. You'll have employees which will have their own profile. Each union would have its own profile. Each trade. So they do have pieces of setup, which employees being kind of what I consider, the most important part, making sure we nail those. But then each company is unique in that instance too, where we would walk you through the necessary areas to place the correct information on each job. And that's kind of what I say kind of varies from customer to customer or contractor to contractor. Also too, this is just kind of brief, walkthrough presentation. We do full demonstrations of foundation. So today's topic is very, specific in estimating cost versus actual cost. From a true demonstration, we do spend a lot more time with you. It's tailored towards you. You can ask your specific questions. We go through the entire software, every module if you really need to. So I do like to offer that too. Just for today, kind of touching on these subjects. I don't want anybody to think that's all we do. So we would be more than happy to actually sit down with anybody that wants to take a look at the system a lot further and do a more personalized demonstration if needed. How are percent completes entered for job costing? Well, percent completes can come from a couple different ways. So the standard percent complete that foundation can produce as far as for, let's say, over under billing is going to be your standard estimated cost divided by actual cost, or actual cost divided by estimated cost. And that would give you a standard percent complete. Now, I have worked with companies in the past that's one value that they're looking to track. But maybe I want to throttle that percent complete up, or I might want to throttle it down. There is a feature within job costing that if you wanted to enter a job percent complete, you can enter multiple jobs at the same time, or you can enter a specific job at one time. This would be an override to the system's calculation of its actual percent complete. And this gives me the ability to come in here, say job started as of a specific date, maybe only do active jobs, and then I can enter in a percent complete based on the actual job. I'll kind of leave the area open for any remaining questions. Do we have any type of daily sheets for time and material type jobs? Yes, we do. So, we have multiple, what I consider mobile timekeeping solutions that allow somebody from the field that, if I want to give a smartphone or tablet to an employee or foreman, have them enter time, potentially have them enter materials, and then be able to turn around and produce a time and material billing. It is something that you can do within the system. We also have a time and material module here that is designed to grab all labor, mark it up for you, grab all materials, whether that's an AP invoice or even getting into inventory. We're costing all this stuff, right? So we're entering payroll potentially weekly. We're entering payables every day. We want to be able to turn around and bill for that information if we need to, and that could be for a job or even a service call. Time and material is going to be one of our strong suits. That's going to allow you to mark that cost up, roll it up into an invoice, show as much detail or little detail as you want, and be able to automate that time and material process. Also within our mobile timekeeping, we have a product called WorkMax that not only does the time entry part, but also gives the employee or the foreman the ability to enter in forms from the field. I've seen that used for time and material sheets, daily reports. So we do a lot of everything here, and we'd be more than happy to show you more if you'd like. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. Hopefully going through the system today kind of gave you an idea of how Foundation handles, estimated cost versus actual cost. Being able to track that cost in a lot more detail, be able to go in and see what our labor really truly cost us. I'm a big proponent of how can we use some actual numbers to make us more competitive down the road, right? So that's my goal today. Hopefully we went through some of the system that shows that. And obviously, if there's more questions, feel free to either reach out to me, Tom Greco, My email is tjg@foundationsoft.com, or you can always go to our website. This will be uploaded to our YouTube page, which we have a ton of content in there. So if you want to learn more about us, it's another area that I recommend going to. But once again, thank you everybody for attending today. Have a wonderful day and everybody stay safe. Thank you.